Good morning. I'd like to call the council meeting for Monday, October 25th, 2022 to order. I'd like to start with the public consultation. And I will now open the public consultation and call upon the corporate officer to read aloud the notice.
Thank you. This public consultation is being held to respond to comments received from anyone that may be affected by the proposed amendments to the city's official community plan bylaw. OCP Amendment Bylaw number 4522 proposes to redesignate the property located at 821 119th Avenue from highway commercial to low-density residential. This would allow a zoning change from the current legally non-conforming use of the single detached dwelling to be legally conforming. Referrals were sent out to neighboring property owners and external agencies. One comment was received from BC Transit stating they do not support the proposed bylaw changes as they feel it would reduce the allowable density on the subject property, which may not support future transit ridership. Although there would be a reduction of the allowable density, staff feel that the reduction in ridership would be negligible, and there were no additional comments received.
Perfect. Thank you. As there are no correspondence or written comments received, I will call a first time for comments. A second time for any comments. And a third time for any comments. Hearing none, I will now close the public consultation. With that, we will move into the public hearing. I will open the public hearing and call upon the corporate officer to read aloud the notice.
Thank you. This public hearing is being held to hear from anyone that may be affected by the proposed amendments to both the city's official community plan bylaw and zoning bylaw with regards to the property located at 821 119th Avenue. Amendment Bylaw number 4522 proposes to change the OCP land use designation from highway commercial to low-density residential, and the Amendment Bylaw number 4519 proposes to change the zoning from C3 highway commercial zone to RS2 residential single detached and duplex zone. This would change the current legally non-conforming use of the single detached dwelling to legally conforming. The same response from BC Transit was included on the agenda, which spoke against the proposed amendments, and then there were no other comments received.
Thank you. As there's no other correspondence or written comments received, I will call a first time for comments. And a second time for any comments. And a third time for any comments. Hearing none, I will now close the public hearing. With that, I will open to the regular meeting of City Council, but I would like to move actually into the closed portion of the meeting. With that, we'd like to go over Agenda Item 4.1, Section 90 minutes as previously noted, Agenda Item 2.1 and 8.2, Section 91.c, Labor Relations or Other Employee Relations, Agenda Item 8.1, Section 9.1b, Personal informational about an unidentified individual who is being considered for a municipal award or honor, and Agenda Item 8.3, Section 91F, information that is prohibited from disclosure under Section 21 of the Freedom of Information and Protection of Privacy Act. Can I get a motion to go into closed, please? Motion, Council Dober. Seconded, Council Wilbur. All in favor? With that, we will go into our closed portion of the meeting. I am Councillor Kemp. I'm stepping in for the mayor as he's away this week on mayor's business. And with that, I'd like to start with the delegations. Our first delegation is 2.1, Sherry Motifer with the Multiple Sclerosis Society of Canada in attendance regarding the proclamation to recognize May as Multiple Sclerosis Month and to have the multiple sclerosis flag flown for the month of May. So if I could get Sherry up beside, and I'd like to read the delegation. Hello, Sherry. Hello. So with that, I'd like to read the proclamation. So whereas multiple sclerosis is a chronic, often disabling neurological neurological disease affecting an estimated of 1 in 400 Canadians and approximately 90,000 across the country, and whereas multiple sclerosis symptoms vary widely and may lead to problems with numbness, coordination, vision, and speech, as well as extreme fatigue and even paralysis. And whereas there is no known cause of, prevention of, or cure for multiple sclerosis, and whereas the Multiple Sclerosis Society of Canada is the only national organization in Canada that supports both MS research and services for both people with MS and their families, and whereas annual fundraising events such as the MS Walk, MS Bike, and the A&W Canadians Burgers to Beat MS campaign support programs to enhance the lives of people affected by multiple sclerosis and their families and support MS research in Canada, and whereas since 1948, the Multiple Sclerosis Society of Canada has contributed $200 million towards MS research and is grateful for the dedication and commitment of its supporters and volunteers that has made this possible, and whereas together we will find ways to connect and empower the MS community to create positive change and see a world free of multiple sclerosis. And now, therefore, I hereby proclaim the month of May 2022 to be MS Awareness Month for the Multiple Sclerosis Society of Canada. Perfect. Thank you for coming in today, Sherry. Would you like to share a few words? Or
I don't.
Okay.
Sure, that's just not like you, really.
I know, it's not normal.
Thank you so much for everything you do. Thank you for coming in today.
thank you.
Have a great day. All right, with that, we'll move to 2.2, Lori Knutson with the South Peace Hospice Palliative Care Society in attendance regarding the proclamation to recognize May as Hospice Palliative Care Month. Hello, Lori. So I will read the proclamation. Whereas Hospice Palliative Care Month is focused on raising awareness and recognizing that everyone should have access to quality end-of-life care. And whereas the South Peace Hospice Palliative Care Society is comprised of a large number of volunteers that provide direct and indirect hospice palliative care services to those individuals living within Dawson Creek. And whereas member organizations collectively reflect the entire hospice palliative care continuum, from patients who are dying and still living within their homes to those who are dying in hospitals. And whereas the South Peace Hospice Palliative Care Society seeks to ensure that hospice palliative care for patients and their families is integrated and of high quality, and believes that this can be achieved through commitment, awareness, and partnerships. And now, therefore, I do hereby proclaim May 22 as Hospice Palliative Care Month in Dawson Creek. Awesome. Would you like to say a few things? You're welcome.
Thank you.
You're
That
welcome.
was wrong, this thing is like a gun. Thank you, sir.
Awesome.
Thank you so
Thank
much,
you for
guys.
everything
Thank
you do.
Thank you.
All right. With that, we'll move to 2.3 with Elisa Valentine, the Human Resource Manager with the City of Dawson Creek, and Don Carpenter, representative for the QP Local 2403, in attendance regarding the proclamation and recognition of April 28th, 2022 as Annual Day of Mourning. Right, they're sitting there. I will go ahead and read the proclamation. Whereas the Day of Mourning was initiated by the Canadian Labour Congress in 1984 and is recognized worldwide, and whereas the Day of Mourning is a day to take time to remember lost coworkers, friends and family who's lost their lives, were disabled or injured in the workplace, and those afflicted with industrial disease. And whereas we earnestly seek to set an example and reflect our commitment to the issues of health and safety in the workplace. Now, therefore, I do hereby proclaim, April 28th, 2022 as the Annual Day of Mourning in Dawson Creek. All right, ladies, thanks for Hello. Ladies like to say a few words, or?
I just wanted to say that after the tragic loss of one of our own on his way to work this year, it is very important to recommit to worker safety.
Awesome. Thank you very much for coming in. Did you want to take the proclamation? Thank you very much. All right. With that, we'll move on to 2.4, Chelsea Matasha, Emergency Planning Manager with the City of Dawson Creek, in attendance regarding the proclamation to recognize May 1st to 7th, 2022 as Emergency Preparedness Week. So I'll go ahead and read that proclamation. Whereas Emergency Preparedness Week is a national awareness initiative that has taken place annually since 1996. And whereas Emergency Preparedness Week encourages residents to create a 72-hour emergency preparedness kit and sign up for emergency alerts. This year's theme emphasizes preparedness through communication. And whereas by registering for alerts, you are here helping to build a culture of preparedness. With your help, we can communicate the importance of emergency preparedness through Dawson Creek. Now, therefore, I hereby proclaim May 1st to 7th, 2022 to be observed as Emergency Preparedness Week in Dawson Creek. Chelsea? Yeah, perfect. Do we get a smile?
Yes, please. There we go.
Perfect, thanks. Would you like to say a few words?
Yeah, for sure. So Emergency Preparedness Week for this year is the first week of May. And the City of Dawson Creek is teaming up with the Peace River Regional District. So the Regional District right now is doing a regional campaign to get people signed up for Everbridge, which is the alert tool that we use for emergency events. One thing I've identified in the work that we've done so far in this position is communication. If we have an event, we need to be able to communicate that event to our residents. And Everbridge or the Northeast BC Alert System is the one way to do that. So we're encouraging people to sign up. If you're not signed up, go onto your mobile app and type in Everbridge, and you too can be part of the solution. No, I'm just joking.
Thank you for everything you do, Chelsea. Thank you. All right, with that, we'll move to number 3, late items. Does any of the councillors have any late items to add for today's meeting? Councillor Wilbur?
Thank you. Yes, I would like to talk about the Lobster Fest and making a donation to their silent auction.
All right. Can I get a motion to include that late item? Councillor Earl, seconded. Councillor Parslow. We can vote on that.
Okay. Would Councillor Parslow, or Councillor Chebetkoff, pardon me, have to step away for this, or once we accept it?
It has no personal pecuniaries,
No personal.
organizational.
Can I lead to Brenda for some clarification, please?
Yes, through you, Madam Chair. What the item was in regards to the Oktoberfest?
Lobster
Sorry.
Fest, donation towards Lobster Fest.
Okay. And is Councillor Chebetkoff on the board of that committee as a voting member?
I'm on the board, but I do not get any pecuniary benefits.
Okay, then we can just leave it up to Councillor Chebetkoff if he wishes to declare a conflict or not.
Thank you for that clarification. If we can go ahead and vote to the late item.
No, nothing.
There we go. There it is. A second. Councillor Parslow. It's on there. There we go. Albert, and it's carried. All All right, if we'll move on to new councillors' business. Do any councillors have any new councillors' business? Or did you want to go ahead with the late item first, Brenda?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
let's deal with the late item now then. All right, Councillor Wilbur? I don't know why it's not turning off.
There we go.
There we go.
I was gonna say I'm loud enough without it, so we're probably
There was a
okay.
delay, sorry about that.
So typically in the past, the city has made a donation towards the Lobster Fest for their silent auction. And I'm proposing, so I will move, actually, that we provide the Lobster Fest, which is a Mother's Day event, with a family swim pass to be used in their silent auction.
Do you have a seconder for that motion? Councillor Earl?
Just for my own edification, number one, what is the value of a family swim pass that's being proposed? And two, what have we done in the past?
Through you, Madam Chair, the council has chosen to do different things over the years and contribute, whether it be a product. This is a swim pass. I would suggest we put a value of up to $200 value on it. That way it is, council is aware of what the process would be and what the value is to their contribution to the South Peace Oilman's Lobster Fest this year.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So we're good to just, and I'm looking to Brenda for this. Do I need to amend the motion to specify that it's $200, or are we good with, can we just assume that it's $200? No?
No, through you, Madam Chair, we will need an amendment to that
Okay, then
motion. Thank you.
We could alter the original motion as the mover could present that, if it's okay with council.
Okay.
Thank you. I did not articulate well. So yes, I only know how much a pass is because I buy them, but I'm fine. But just a friendly amendment that it's a family pass up to $200.
And a seconder? Seconded by Councillor Earl. And vote on that motion? And it is carried. Thank you. All right, we'll move on to 4, new councillors' business. Do any councillors have any new councillors' business? All right, Councillor Dober.
I said something quick. I just, I don't know if anybody has seen or aware, but Krista Wynn Forstner is on the Food Network channel tonight because she was chosen she's in the, I don't know a lot about
Wall
it, but
of
the Wall of
Bakers.
Bakers. Yeah, thank you. Counselor, the Wall of Bakers. So I just wanted to mention that to anybody that's listening or anybody that's in here. It's on tonight. So it's kind of cool and proud to see that Dawson Creek's on there and somebody from here. So. That's all I had.
Perfect. Thank you, Councillor Dober. That is amazing. So anyone who wants to tune in, it is tonight. Moving on, we'll move on to number 5, adoption of minutes. So next item is 5.1, minutes of the regular council meeting, April 11th, 2022 for adoption. Moved by Councillor Dober, seconded by Councillor Wilbur. Any discussion? Now I'll call for the question. Voting regarding the minutes. And that's carried. Is there any discussion in regards to the minutes? Anything from those minutes? With that, I will move on. So for the business arising, we'll move on to 7.0 correspondence. The next item is 7.1, a letter from Joanne and Dennis Homey, residents of Dawson Creek. The letter from April 11th, 2022, regarding permission to reconnect to the city's raw water line supply. But before we propose a motion, I was wondering if Blair could give some background information regarding this item.
Certainly, through you, Madam Chair. Dawson Creek has a raw water line that comes in from the Kiskatna along the Old Hart Highway. Along that section, there are numerous homes and areas out there that access the raw water line. Most all have agreements with the city. We are in very preliminary discussions with the Peace River Regional District and the Area D Director, as this really is a service that probably we have to discuss with the Regional District and the Area Director, so we can do that fairly quickly. But I would suggest that prior to making a decision on this request, we defer this until we bring the report back based on how the future of that raw water line and how the connections will be handled and under what type of agreement with the Peace River Regional District we would have that. That way we would capture this request as well.
Thank you.
So a motion to defer until a full report is brought back would be in order.
Councillor Earl?
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I will make the motion to defer based on the recommendation from the CIO. I also want to note just an error in the agenda, letter from Joanne and Dennis Homey, resident of Dawson Creek. The residents of Eris, so heads up. But yes.
Perfect. Thank you. Councillor Parslow?
I second the motion.
Perfect. So moved by Councillor Earl, seconded by Councillor Parslow. If we can call that to a vote. Right, and that is carried. So that will be deferred. Next, we're on to Correspondence 7.2, Letter and Fundraising Application from Johanna Martens, Executive Director, Kiwanis Performing Arts Center, April 12th, 2022, regarding request for letter of support for building communities through arts and heritage, local festivals funding. Councillor Parslow?
I move that we give a letter of support in response to this piece of correspondence.
Thank you. Councillor Earl?
I'm seconding it, but I'd also like to speak to it once. Okay, so the in-kind request is essentially for, by and large, services we already provide through our subsidy, but there's a couple questions I have for clarification. So under the funding application link, so the 35-1572 one-day use of arena indoor space as a backup for outdoor activities, have they specified which arena they're looking to use? Because if it's one of the rinks, either Kinner Memorial, that's through us. If it's the event center, that's through Spectra. Similarly, they're asking for use of a portable stage. Is that something we have in-house at the city, or is that something they need to take to the event center as well?
Shantae?
Through Madam Chair, the stage, currently we have a stage that we have that's stored, that's quite a large stage. We use it, it's rented at approximately under $600 a day that we have in-house. It's for Memorial and Kin Arenas currently. One of the things is it has not gone outside though, so we'll have to decide what we're going to do. If it will go outside, it normally has been always an inside stage, but an event as well has a stage too.
Yes. Okay, thank you for the clarification.
Councillor Dober?
Thank you. Just to add to Councillor Earl's things, like the one-day use of a bouncy castle, does the city own a bouncy castle?
All right, Shante.
Madam Chair, yes, we have a few bouncy castles that the city does have, as well as there is other people that do rent them. We just will have to make sure that the insurance and the proper, everything is completed if that is what's going to happen. We purchased the one from Kiwanis. It's quite a large one, and then we have 2 or 3 other ones that we use for birthday parties, but the larger one would probably be the best one for them in the sense, but again, they'd have to make sure that they operate it correctly and so on and so forth, and have insurance and that, if council so approves that.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. If there isn't any more, we have moved by Councillor Parslow, seconded by Councillor Earl. So we'll go ahead and vote in regards to 7.2. Perfect, thank you, and that motion has carried. Oh. Councillor Wilbur?
Could I just, through you, your chair, get clarification from our corporate officer? Was that motion just on providing a letter of support, and we need a separate one for the in-kind, or was the motion for all of it? All, okay.
Yeah, the motion was from Councillor Parcel to approve the letter of support plus the in-kind donation.
Okay, thank you. I just didn't
Is that
hear that
correct?
part. Thank you.
Perfect, thank you. Thank you. So we'll move on now to 7.3, letter from Michelle Mobley, Board Chair, the South Peace Building Learning Together BLT Society, from April 7th, 2022, to clarify the request regarding childcare action plan for Dawson Creek and area. Councillor Earl?
So I know we're not supposed to do discussion before making a motion, but I was hoping for some clarification on this letter because I do see a bit of ambiguity in the ask. So I'm not sure how I would go about that.
Make a motion, we'll have a discussion.
Okay. Well, it's just, well, they ask for a designate from someone in City Hall, but they don't clarify whether they're looking for staff or a council liaison. And one has a hard cost to taxpayers, the other is just one of our time. So that will inform my decision.
Blair, are we able to get some clarification on that?
If you'd like, I'll make a motion, and then if it's seconded, then Councillor Earl can seek his clarification. Okay? So I would make a motion that we receive the letter from the childcare, from Michelle Mobley, and we concur with the 2 requests contained in the letter for City Council.
Do I have a seconder to that motion? Councillor Dober? Can we get clarification then now?
Certainly, through you, Madam Chair. At this point, with the election year, everything going on, I'm hesitant to commit any staff time to this request. So I'm not sure if the motion was to have a councillor appointed as the liaison back to council. I just don't want to sell this issue short. And right now, we have piled a great deal onto the staff, and I'm not sure we can meet this commitment.
Thank you, Blair. Councillor Dober?
Thank you. Can we, or maybe you can clarify, but this letter is very vague. Like every time I've seen this come up, it's very vague on what they want or what we need. I think there is a childcare shortage in Dawson Creek, and clearly I think it's part of our future that we got to look at. But is there a way to reach out to see what they actually need from us? Because this could be taken 50 different ways on what they're asking for. Is it a full-time staff? Is it an hour here? Is there a way to reach out to find out exactly what they need from us, or do you know that already, Blair?
Through you, Madam Chair. No, I don't know it exactly. As I read it, they're requesting the city designate someone at City Hall and act as a spokesperson to council. So that's one. The other is a request that the document become part of the OCP. that has to be taken out for change as well. So I can't guarantee it would become part of that. It would be a council decision. So what they're asking for is that it becomes. I don't think you want to forego your consultation and changes to an OCP. So we could reach out. I don't know if anybody has spoken to the author of this letter. Okay.
Okay, I have Councillor Parslow next.
Oh, I still had one more.
Okay.
Sorry.
That's,
Sneaking in several.
go ahead, Councillor Jober.
I learned from the best, Charlie. Is there is it possible to just defer this until somebody's made contact with them, or how do you?
So I'll point out to council, we did have a request in before from this
Yeah.
group. We went back to them for clarification as to what it was they needed. The letter, this is what we received. We can go back a second time to ask for clarification so that council can make the best decision possible, so.
I just don't see how
Sorry, go ahead, council.
yeah, I just don't see personally, support, I mean, the general broad initiative of this, but based on this letter, it's hard to even know what we're committing to, so. I just, in that part, I couldn't be in favor of voting in favor of the motions.
Councillor Parslow?
Well, first of all, I made this motion so that my colleague to my right could have some discussion. However, to me, and I stand and may need to be corrected, I thought that we already had a spokesperson representing the city in this, and that was the mayor. Now, if I am wrong in that, he's led discussions, so I'm not wishing to, he's not here, but I assumed in making this motion that the first part, right, was already there. Definitely not for staff to handle. I thought we would have an official liaison person, and I thought that the mayor had assumed that role. And I view it in the wording as liaison, just like Alex and I have a chat about Mile Zero part, liaison, right? He doesn't buy many coffees, just Dale Campbell provides the coffee. But second part is technically, I think, out of order. So, but all I did was try to keep you online, right?
So if I could clarify, I know His Worship has done a great deal of work on the childcare file. I cannot speak for him, but I'm confident he may be the person that, until his tenure is up, could very well be a council liaison. But again, I'm not sure it's appropriate we dedicate him to that position without him being here at this point, but I'll leave that up to yourselves who carries that.
Yeah. No, if I may speak again, I mean, yes, I think that should be clarified, and the only right thing possibly is to defer and help Michelle with perhaps another letter based upon that discussion that meets how you amend the official community plan. And by that time, Mayor Dale will be able to articulate what his intentions would be for this project.
Councillor Earl?
Well, there's always one, isn't there, at a council meeting? Not you, I'm referring to the item. But yes, also you sometimes. No, so I agree with Councillor Parslow. We need some clarification on the liaison piece and whether that, if it is so, the mayor is willing to keep that on himself, or we need to ask somebody else from council to take that up. And secondly, until we see what the childcare action plan is, committing to incorporate that into the official community plan seems presumptuous. Through you to Brenda, is the cleanest way for us to defeat Councillor Parslow's motion and then defer, or just defer?
Through you, Madam Chair, the correct procedure would be to defer the motion to staff.
Okay.
Bring back either bring back more clear information or have them provide another letter.
Okay,
But just
so
to
I
defer to
will,
staff.
I will move that we defer this motion until staff has had an opportunity to reach out to the board of the South Peace Building Learning Together Society for some clarification on the two things they're asking for in the letter.
Do I have a seconder to that motion? Councillor Wilbur. Right. And we'll vote on that. And that motion has carried to defer that item for 7.3. Next item, 7.4, is a letter from Marcia Stewart, Executive Director, South Peace Art Society, Dawson Creek Art Gallery, April 19th, 2022, regarding a request for a letter of support to recognize the Dawson Creek Art Gallery as a regional service provider by the BC Gaming Commission. Councillor Earl?
I would move that we provide the requested support.
Thank you. Councillor Parslow?
Seconded.
Thank you. And Councillor Dober?
Thank you. I'll stop asking so many questions eventually. I just, dealing with some of this gaming stuff through some other organizations, is there any like risk or anything to the city or other organizations by giving a letter of request? Because I know the BC Gaming's like, one, it's government, so there's a lot of...
Right. I believe this is, council in the past has dealt with a number of support letters recommending yes or no to those. So I couldn't definitively say that they would entertain a grant, this grant or a grant application over somebody because of a letter of support. I think we've handed those out, I think, quite often, which is a benefit to the community and the organization. So what this letter is about is saying that, yes, we recognize our art gallery as a regional service to this region, not just to the citizens of Dawson Creek, but rather the entire region.
Okay, thanks for clarifying.
All right.
Perfect. With that, we'll take that to a vote. For 7.4. Right, the voting has ended. And with that, the vote has carried. With that, we'll move to Section 8, Reports. Our first report is 8.1, report number 22-039 from the Capital Projects Manager regarding Capital Road Works Program Invitation to Tender, 2022-15 Carmarlo, 89th Avenue and 20A Street. Councillor Parslow?
I move the report number 22-039 from the Capital Projects Manager, the invitation to tender 2022-15 Capital Road Works Project, Carmarlo, 89th Avenue and 20A Street be received. Further, Council award the contract from ITT 2022-15 Capital Road Works Program, Carmarlo, 89th Avenue and 20A Street to Jacobson Contracted Limited for the tendered price of $1,407,498.75 plus applicable taxes. Further, that Council authorise the reallocation of $68,276 from the 2022 Sanitary Capital Projects Funds and $14,000 from the 2022 Water Capital Project Funds in order to complete the respective water and sewer related works as planned.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Earl? Councillor Javetkov?
In the financial section there, it says that due to budgetary constraints, the full scope of the work for Carmarlo was reduced by approximately 80 meters. Does the motion include that 80 meters, or is it still excluded?
So through Madam Chair, it still excludes that work. When we went out to tender, we did reduce the scope because we were tight on the overall budget. So what this will enable us to do is once we get into it, if we do have some additional room within that contingency, we may look at doing a little bit extra, but this, for now, that 80 meters
So
is
how
out.
did you do it? Did you cut off 80 meters off the end of one street, or?
Yeah, through Madam Chair, this project's being done in phases anyways. So what we did is we just found a logical place to terminate the works for this year as opposed to going that extra block or half a block.
I'm just concerned about it because I think, you know, while we're doing these projects, we should try and do the entire project. And for the sake of $60,000, you know, there should be an effort to find that, eh? But if it's, you know, if it's part of a progression, I mean, it's a lot less impact that way, so.
Yeah, through Madam Chair, we'll be back there next year continuing on with subsequent phases, so.
Okay.
Perfect. If there isn't any other discussion, we'll move to a vote in regards to 8.1. And that vote is carried. Thank you. Moving now on to 8.2, report number 22-040 from the General Manager of Development Services regarding BC Transit Annual Operating Agreement 2022 to 2023. Councillor Wilbur.
Thank you. I will I will move the recommendation that report number 22-040 from the General Manager of Development Services regarding BC Transit Annual Operating Agreement 2022-2023 be received. Further, that Council approve the BC Transit Annual Operating Agreement effective from April 1st, 2022 to March 31st, 2023 at the proposed cost of $382,416.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Earl, second that motion.
I will, if I could, Madam Chair, I'll just point out, when you look at those, we've dealt with transit over the last number of years. We see this number comes in where we thought it would. The one thing I will point out that jumped out at me is I thought the numbers for the amount of revenue we would receive may be on the very optimistic side. So I want to point that out for yourselves. We will watch those numbers as we go through the year. The other thing is our year begins January 1st, ends December 31st. The government works on a March 31st year end, and that is why we see the annual operating agreement come today versus earlier in the year. So, all right.
Thank you for that. Councillor Earl.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, Blair, for the clarification, because one of my questions was going to revolve around whether that $382,000 is with the revenue we're going to get back from this. So I'll vote to support this. I do think, you know, we've gone back and forth with BC Transit over the last number of years around costs and ridership and the return on value to taxpayers. And I think that's something the next council is going to have to potentially revisit. It's hard to say right now. Certainly the last 2 years of COVID-19, any reliable benchmarks or, you know, to make the change we made at the beginning of a pandemic basically means our first or last 2 years of ridership statistics are not useful or usable in any real way as a benchmark or a watermark for us to make decisions on. So I'll support this, but it is an ongoing source of frustration to see, you know, on my commute to work every day, passing by an otherwise empty bus at 8:30 in the morning in the downtown core. I appreciate that the service is not as robust as some people in the community would like, but, you know, it really is a matter of the demand needs to be there, and we still don't see the demand. And hopefully, now that we're exiting COVID, some of those usage rates recover, so we can, so we can get some more value out of this for taxpayer, and it's not such a burden to the taxpayers. But thank you. I will support this.
Thank you, Councillor Earl. With that, I will call to a vote in regards to report number 22-040. All right. And that motion is carried with 2 against, Parslow and Jvetkov. All right, we will move on to 8.3, report number 2022-041 from the Parks and Facilities Manager regarding request for quotations 2022-17 Memorial Arena HVAC construction. Councillor Earl.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'll move the recommendation that report number 2022-041 from the Parks and Facilities Manager regarding RFQ 2022-17 Memorial Arena HVAC construction be received. Further, that RFQ 2022-17 be awarded to Zwick's Plumbing and Heating Ltd. Further, that staff be directed to reduce the scope of work within the allocated budget of $459,259.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Dober.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Obviously concerning that the price comes in double, but now we're going to adjust the scope of work to meet our budget, but wouldn't we just retender that out at what our scope of work's going to be? And the other part is it normal only to have 2 mechanical outfits tender on stuff? Because, well, I get appreciation and things are up, but to be double what we thought, triple, yeah. It seems like a lot, and I know dealing some of this, like some of the parts and stuff I get have gone up, but it's huge, right? To be triple the difference, and now we're just going to adjust the scope to meet our budget. Like, who knows? Like, that leaves, in my mind, leaves it fairly wide open for, a company to be like, well, we can only do this for that. I'm not questioning your ability, Kevin, and to do it properly. It's just a concern, so. Oh.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
I will reach to Shantae for some clarification.
Yeah, change that then. No, just kidding.
Madam Chair. So what happened, we had 4 people come to look at what the project was. We had 2 people, companies that bid on it. Partway through this work with Mr. Davies, they identified that the materials had gone up drastically. And then again, it went up again once we had the 2 tenders in. So 2 bids in. And so what we had decided when we discussed it was that we had the 2 bids already. So what we would look at doing is we knew that we needed to do the work for the dehumidifiers because one is down. And so we contacted Mr. Davies again and just talked to him about what we can do. So we're working with Zwick's to see what they would be able to do for the price to reduce the scope of work. So we felt it was better to continue that way because by the time we go tender it out again and it continues on, we have a small window to get all this work completed before we put ice back into the facility. And so we wanted to make sure that we were transparent with the people that put the bid in to be fair to them. So if we rebid it out, then we felt that this was the best way to go.
Does it leave it open for abuse, though, and I'm not saying Zwick's, I know Dave well, but I'm just saying in general, like, it seems like, I don't know, that it's kind of awarded, so they can kind of say what they want. I'm not saying they would, but I'm just more curious what our policy is around that.
Yeah, so if I can defer to Brenda, but when we talked about it, this is the direction that we went through when we talked amongst the 3 of us. And then we felt that we were going to work, I think with Zwick's, we're trying to work with Davies as well to figure out what needs to be done because we can't just go and put buy some of the equipment and just let it sit for 2 years as well.
Yeah.
So we thought the dehumidifiers, I think it works out to about 195,000, somewhere in there, and then we'll add some other work that will fit within that scope of work. So we're going to work with them to figure out what they can do, and they are both companies are well-known, and so the company that was a low bid, that's where we went with, and we believe that we're going to be the best way to go to get the work completed right now, and that's once we get to there, but as long as you agree with it.
Yeah, and I wasn't questioning either them or you, I just, looking at it from the outside, was my concern, so.
If I could add, Madam Chair, to this. So obviously, when something comes in 2 to 3 times over what the anticipated cost was on a capital project like this, we step back, reevaluate, find out what must be done within that capital project and what is possibly could be deferred. The dehumidifiers are a must, as we have indicated in this discussion. It does not mean that $459,000 will be spent on dehumidifiers. We will quantify what the cost is on that portion. If we can accomplish further work under the $459,000 to enhance the objective of this contract, we would do that. There may be a reality that says, no, you need to spend an additional 4 or 6, at which point we would just do the dehumidifiers. So that would be spoken with Zwick's on this as well.
Great. Thank you, Shantae and Blair, for the clarification. Councillor Javetkov?
Yeah, that was my concern. If there's critical work there, obviously the prices have gone up because of the supply issues, and I think the supply issues, over the next year or two will be resolved. So, whereas the cost of some of this stuff is inflated, because there isn't anything available, but if you want to pay 3 times the price, yeah, we could get you one, but it is going to cost you 3 times the amount. So, I think it's important to defer some of these things, especially stuff that's, has some time left on it. If it's critical and, you have to do it, then I don't know about the legalities of, negotiating on a quote, but
So just following through, we have followed all legal protocol on this. I will assure Mayor and Council on that. We have checked. There is no bid shopping taking place at all. But I would agree, there is a time and a place that when bids come in this high, we have to evaluate, do what is needed to be done, and watch as we come out of this crazy world we've been in for the last 2 years, and see if prices don't readjust some, because I don't think everything can stay 3 times higher than it was prior to COVID.
yeah.
So, or at least I hope it can't.
Thank you, Councillor Javetkov. Councillor Parslow?
Yeah, this is quite the shot for sure, but it's not without lots of, it's not peculiar to the city. I think I've shared before about the $1.4 million project the Dawson Street Sportsman's Club is having, and there you had the HVAC system escalating costs in a similar way. But given that we know there's electrical work and there's material, and you've had this quote, why is it necessary to have a 25% contingency?
All of the projects that are brought before you carry a contingency, Class A, B, C, D. Some go as high as 40% on a D estimate, I believe. I'm no expert in that field. But with what's gone on here, they will only hold their bids for 7 days right now when you're dealing with electrical and so on. So the prices are changing relatively quickly and could change. This is really to protect the city. If I would far rather be in a position where we have too many dollars that we would not have to, we could either put into reserve than have to go back and say, we're into this job and we don't have enough money. It's just, I think, a business decision, but certainly the prices are changing rapidly at this point.
Yeah, thank you. That makes perfect sense to me. I'd forgotten that the club is experiencing the same limitation. This is a quote for so many days, and not even, it used to be, 30 days or 60 days? Now it's certainly 7 days, so thank you.
Right, if there's any more comments, shall we call that to a vote for the report? Thank you. Voting is closed, and it is carried. Thank you. With that, we'll move on to section number 9, bylaws. 9.1 is the official adoption, 821 on 119th Avenue. Councillor Javetkov?
I'll move third reading and adoption.
Thank you. Councillor Parslow? Perfect. And we'll call that to a vote. Thank you, and that is carried. With that, we'll move on to 9.2, zoning amendment 20-01, bylaw number 4519, 2022 for consideration of third reading and adoption, 821 119th Avenue. Councillor Javetkov?
Move third reading and adoption.
Councillor Wilbur?
I'll second.
We'll call that to a vote. And that is carried for 9.2. 9.3 is report number 22-032 from the Chief Financial Officer regarding tax rate bylaw number 4525, 2022. Councillor Earl?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'll move that the recommendation that report number 22-032 from the Chief Financial Officer regarding tax rates bylaw number 4525, 2022 be received. Further, that tax rates bylaw number 4525, 2022 be given first 3 readings.
Do I have a seconder? Councillor Dober? With that, we'll call for a vote. Oh, pardon me. First, Councillor Parslow.
So I couldn't let this momentous decision just go by without a question. So to our illustrious finance officer, I'm curious about the possibilities in the future of us wrestling with this $100 flat tax rate. I think this is a kind of an anomaly, I think, in the municipal world to have it. And what are your thoughts on that topic?
So through you, Madam Chair, yeah, it is kind of an anomaly. So I think the city's been doing it for quite some time, the vacant land and the occupied land. It would have quite an impact on the tax rate if we were to get rid of it. Well, not a huge impact, but it would definitely impact the tax rate if we were to get rid of those flat rates. So I'm not sure.
To what degree? Do you just guesstimate? Are you not prepared to put a figure on that?
I could put a figure on it.
Okay. Not that I'm proposing that for this year, but it's in future financial planning.
So we're looking at almost $1.4 million.
Really?
So equivalent to a tax rate increase would be substantial.
Just to help with possibly some history on this. So I don't believe a municipality today can bring in the flat tax. We have one because we are grandfathered under the old legislation, being 100 and 300. The intent, and I will go back to 1993 when I had discussions with Phil Sykes, who was our chief of finance or finance portfolio holder as a council. it costs as much to provide services to $1 million home as it does to a $50,000 home. I think the intent going back to these parcel taxes was it helps level it somewhat. So whether you service $1 million home, whether you provide service, that was the intent, and that's going back to 1993, and I think it probably still rings true today, but it's my history lesson from Councillor Sykes at the time, who...
I'm sure you can give us many other history lessons.
All right. If there isn't any other discussion, I'll call to a vote for 9.3. Perfect. With that, it is carried. Next item is 10, Mayor's Business. As acting mayor, I don't have anything to report. I'll let the mayor update us when he returns for the next council meeting on all his amazing things that he's been doing. So with that, we'll move to 11, the Chief Administrative Officer's operational update.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and through you, not a great deal to report on today. I do want to speak to the organizational review that the city has undertaken. I spoke to that a number of months ago to let the general population, the residents know, and the businesses that we are undertaking one as a city. It has now been completed. It is just presently being presented to Mayor and Council. We will go through it with the senior staff, management, and employees of the city. We will make this document available to the public in the very near future. But I think a proper protocol is to make sure that the staff at the city, the management team, yourselves as mayor and council are the first to review this. But, overall, the read, we will come out with it. It speaks well of the city of Dawson Creek, and we'll have much more to say on it in the near future. So the next one, I would just add, it is spring, knock on wood, we hope, after the last snowfall we had. People are out there busy cleaning their yards and sweeping and cleaning. If at all possible, I would encourage you not to sweep it into the middle of the road if you can avoid that. And if you do, clean it up. We have our sweepers out working. The amount that I see go on the road sometimes is far beyond what one or two sweeps of our sweeper is going to pick up. And it just creates a hazard for kids on their bikes, for the walking public if it's left on sidewalks. So I just encourage the public to, as they clear their lawns and sweep it out onto the road, if they could clean up a little after themselves, that would be greatly appreciated. So, all right, that's all I have for today.
Perfect. Thank you, Blair, for that update. We'll move on to section 12, the diary. Anything?
Nothing new to report on the diary.
All right. Then we'll move on to the consent calendar. 3.1, the consent calendar items to be received. A letter from Bonnie McCraig, Corporate Officer for City of Fort St. John, April 7th, 2022, regarding extended hour childcare for shift workers. Councillor Parslow?
So move.
Do I have a seconder? Councillor Wilbur? All in favor? We'll take a vote. Perfect, and the consent calendar is carried. We'll move on to 14, 2022 strategic priorities chart.
Nothing new to report, Your Worship, or Madam Chair.
Thank you. With that, we'll move on to 15, media question periods. See, we don't have any media questions, so we'll move on to the Committee of the Whole reports. The first one we have is 16.1. The Staff Sergeant, is he here?
Through you, Madam Chair, we will need to just check on staff coming in.
Okay.
Maybe I recommend a 5-minute.
Okay, do you want to go ahead and take a 5-minute break? Okay.
If you prefer.
Back to order for Monday, April 25th. We are on to section 16, Committee of the Whole reports. We are going to vary the order a little bit due to staff availability. So we will start with 16.5, the report from the Recreation Manager. Thank you for joining us, Erin. The floor is yours.
Oh, Oh, there we go. Thank you. So through your Madam Chair, we've been extremely busy in community services. Our children's programming is going very well. We have a junior chefs program that has 10 courses are full, so that's 150 spaces that have been filled along with wait lists. So staff are opening up for another day and time due to that popularity. Also, staff have put forward a grant with Shell Canada again for support in the summer events parks. So that would be a $5,000 grant. In collaboration with the pool and the arena, recreation staff are back in both facilities with community services as providing birthday parties. So we only opened that a couple weeks ago and we already have 6 parties lined up. So it's been very busy. Ladies and co-ed volleyball leagues are wrapped up for the season. With moving to communicable disease plan, we hope to see full league numbers back in September. So that would be 24 per league is what we have normally, so 400 per session. Sports and events coordinator and I facilitated the ICE user meeting 2 weeks ago. ICE users are preparing to put in their requests for next season, and these are due by the end of this week. The arena concession will be opening in the fall with a new leasee. This group is Sam's Friends Restaurant, and so community services staff is looking forward to working with them. And we would like to thank Hamilton Foods and Donna from Dee's Kitchen for all the work they have done in the past years. This past weekend was the first of 4 sessions for the climbing wall training. So currently 12 individuals are taking part of the program, and 11 of these are sponsored through Aubert Economic Society. By the end of August, training will wrap up, and we'll look forward to providing lessons, drop-in programs, and camps back on the wall. This program involves learning the equipment, top rope climbing, operational risk management, works at height, route setting, along with lead climb group management and climbing instruction. Individuals all then need to pass the climbing gym instructor level 1. So we'll have extremely certified people back up on the wall, and now that we don't have to worry, the cleaning was the biggest issue during COVID on how to clean that wall as to why we were not open as well. So lifeguard training is doing very well. We currently have 8 individuals in the strokes and skills lesson, and these people will be moving into the bronze medallion. And we have exciting news that we have 2 lifeguard positions that are filled now. So one is an LG 125. So we welcome Kaylee Mold from Fort Nelson to join our team, and Preston Sorkin is returning to us for the summer student position of an LG 120. So both will be here in the next month, and our aquatic coordinator will be training on our pool procedures with them. 2 of our staff are also going to be doing in-house first aid instructor training, so we'll be able to certify our own staff in-house, which is great. And then a reminder, community cleanup is already underway with people registering. So if you are a nonprofit or a business who would like to donate, it has to be a local nonprofit organization, to either come downstairs or give us a call so we can sign up your group. So $200 per site, 2 sites to begin with, and then if there's leftover, we'll be happy to take your name for more. We have a total of 65 sites this year. $1,000 was from Trans-Canada Trail, so we were able to open for 5 more sites. And then we're also working on a grant for new signage along the trail, because the trail's signage logo has changed. It's gone back and forth a few times, so Trans-Canada Trail is working with us to pay for that. So, and then in other news, emergency support services. So as my side of things with Chelsea, I applied for a $22,000 grant, which we did receive last week. So that goes towards computers for registration and referrals, 2 reception center kits, signage, and a trailer to take these items to different locations.
Yay. Thank you, Erin. Councillor Wilbur.
Thank you. I just wanted to say it's been a pleasure working with Erin and the staff for our clients at Aubert and seeing all these great job opportunities, so thank you. On the emergency aspect of things, I just wanted you to know that Aubert now has 10 camping cots and sleeping bags in storage if needed, and our space is available.
That's awesome.
If that's needed as well, so you can add that to your list.
I will.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. With that, thank you very much, Erin, your report. Thank you. Appreciate it. Have a great day. With that, we'll move on to 16.4, report from the Parks and Facilities Manager.
Well,
Emmeline is on a well-deserved vacation, so I am going to do her report. I'm not going to read off the report. I'm going to do some highlights, just a few highlights from what she has. One of the things we just want to make sure that we're aware of, parks staff, we basically have a whole new crew other than the arena staff that's coming back. So out of 16, 18 staff, a lot of them are going to be new, so there'll be a lot of new training going on. Our goal is to be able to have them trained, and we'll have some students coming back year after year and get back into that cycle that we have. Big shout out to Aubert. 5 of the students in the parks crew will be working through the grant that they have, which is approximately $15.70, I believe, an hour, $15.60 an hour for 30 hours a week. And for students that are going back to school, they need to be in 30 years or under. So we're very thankful for Aubert again to helping us out with that. Another thing that we want to make sure that people are aware of, that when you go and use the parks, if you have a dog, please put your dog on a leash unless it's at the dog park. We want to have a friendly reminder for the people for Kin Park 1, Kin Park 2. Those are ball diamonds, and we have had people take their dogs in there and allow them to leave their deposits. Then when the youth come in to play, there is some deposits left down there when the kids are playing ball. So please, if you do have a dog, please remember to use the dog park, keep it on a leash, and pick up your deposits and put them away. The parks are beautiful, they're ready to be used, but please make sure that people are respectful of that. We want to make sure for our kids that we have that. We also want to let you know too that we have hired this year a tree maintenance person that will be on our group this year as a contractor. So when we have trees that need to be done, he will be called within a 24-hour period. You have to come in and do the work for us. So we're very happy to have that. So any trees that we have, and we had quite a few last year, so we decided to put a contractor out for that. The facilities are going well. We're working on 2022 capital projects. And the arenas, as you are aware, that we're in dry floor right now. We are working on doing maintenance for the season, and we will have 2 summer students coming in July and August to complete the work with that, because all of our arena guys, except for Regan, have moved outside to the parks. Are there any questions?
Thank you, Shantae.
Did you breathe through that?
I didn't, and I didn't even need oxygen. Okay, seeing as there are no questions, I'll shut off my mic. Thank you.
Thank you for that great report. With that, we'll move on to 16.6, the report from the Development Services Manager. Welcome. If you could just hit the button. Perfect. The floor is yours.
Afternoon, everyone. I'll be presenting the Committee of the Whole report for March. Just an update on some follow-up items. Food vendors, we're working on a report to review business licensing fees and increase available locations for setup. So we're exploring a reduction of fees, adding a location and option of a roaming license in certain areas. CAM's cuts, we're reviewing third-party advertising on residential lots for contractors. So we reached out to some neighboring communities to see if they permit third-party advertising on residential lots and what implications may exist. Also working with Northern Health medical officers regarding the definition for observed consumption sites. So should have something in May Council. And a zoning and OCP amendment for the Naukin Land Exchange. Working on that. We're waiting for the land transfer to complete. In regards to recycling, auditing of recycling containers is underway. We changed auditors last week of March due to inconsistencies and the lack of bins being audited. It's worth mentioning with Aubert auditing, it's been really consistent and they're getting the majority, if not all of the bins audited. So, which has been great because the auditing's kind of the linchpin of the whole operation there. The smart truck training, in the report, we were anticipating it being last week, but we're hoping it's this week. Their manager was away, so we're hoping we can get that done this week. An update on BC Energy Step Code. We had close to 30 Dawson Creek contractors signed up for the Northern BC Step Up to Step Code training. An information session. It was delivered via Zoom on April 12th. So there was 29 people attended. I believe there's 20 from Dawson Creek, which was really good. Our building department is working on building relationships with restoration companies and our insurance underwriting companies. These entail some face-to-face meetings, just going over what building code requirements are and getting everybody on the same page. Bylaw, I've had a few calls regarding people living in tents. So just want to give mayor and council a sense of how Bylaw responds to these calls. So first and foremost, Bylaw will check on the well-being of these individuals. We'll give them a card with some, basically showing them some social service agencies, the homeless shelter, and that sort of thing. Also give them a food gift card and let them know that they can't be camping on city property. We've had 2 of these calls this year. Give you an idea, last year we had 8 in total, so I'm not sure where that's going, but just to give you a bit of an update on that. Engineering, 17th Street water main upsizing from 104th to 117th. The drafting has been completed. Staff are still looking at directional drilling with HDPE for the entire project. There was an RFQ for PVC material closed on BC Bid website. We received 2 quotes for that. Iconics Waterworks was awarded the contract. Emergency Management hosted the EOC Essentials course. Funding was provided by TC Energy. 23 participants, including 14 city staff and 9 regional staff, took part in the 2-day course. So that's my report. Any questions?
Thank you. Councillor Wilbur?
Thank you. And again, it's been great to work with the city, so, but I will, it's not Aubert's credit, I'll let you know, it's the Trash Pandas. So some are from Aubert, but we have some international students that have joined us. We've had other community members that have joined. So we'll probably, by next Recycle Week, have 5 teams of 4 people. So that's a lot of people in the community. But I also want to add, because I got the new cards, so effective immediately, we will no longer be taking hard plastics with the triangles on the bottom in the recycle bins. We will not be taking hard plastic pails, and we will not be taking shredded paper. So that's the new program. I'm going to pray that it doesn't change again. We'll do some videos through the Trash Pandas, just hopefully that helps update people. So because of just getting it today, the Trash Pandas will put out some warnings for the rest of this week if we do see those in the recycle bins. So, yeah, so I just wanted to add that. As I was coming up the stairs, Bylaw handed me the new cards, so so the public knows. Thank you.
Perfect.
Thank you, Councillor Wilbur. Councillor Parslow?
So where do people take those plastics now then? To the recycle centre directly?
Yeah, so you could take those items. They still can be recycled, but you'd need to take them to DC Recycling, which is our local recycler. So I like local. There are bins around town. Those bins are not from DC Recycling, but they will still get recycled. So at your convenience, please take the items that are recyclable but not allowed in the bins to either a bin, I think there's some at No Frills, or to our local DC Recycling depot at top of 8th.
Thank you. If there's any other questions, thank you, Bill, for your report.
Thank you.
Have a great day.
You too. Thanks.
With that, to stay on schedule, we will convene for lunch. When we come back at 1 o'clock, we will be going back into closed. All right. Motion to recess. Moved by Councillor Wilbur, seconded by Councillor Dober. All in favor? Sorry? It's carried. Thank you. All right, everyone, I'd like to call the regular meeting of council back to order for Monday, April 25th, 2022. We left off with the Committee of the Whole reports, and I'd like to start with 16.2, the report from the fire chief.
It's supposed to go green. It's good.
There you go.
Okay, thank you. Good afternoon. I'll start out by a few stats. So for the months of February and March, we had 113 calls of service. This took us up to 165 calls for the first quarter. Out of the 113 calls for service, as you can see in my report, we respond to a wide variety of incidents, but there seemed to be quite an abnormal amount of motor vehicle incidents in February and March. We responded to 19 motor vehicle incidents, and many of them, unfortunately, were severe in nature. So I just kind of want to give a reminder to everyone, please drive according to road conditions, slow down, wear your seatbelts. Yeah, we've been going to a lot of those, so just a reminder to the public. We also responded to 5 structure fires and 1 grass fire for February and March, which is a little weird for February and March for grass fires, but it was good for a while there. And as per most springs, we expect another busy upcoming grass fire season. Our fire prevention branch and firefighters completed 160 fire inspections, bringing the total to 206 for the first quarter. And as far as training, our crews completed 455 hours of training in February and March, bringing the total up to 567 hours of training in the first quarter. In relation to training, 3 of our firefighters recently completed their emergency scene management level 1 course. One of the last components for completion of that was a 2-day practical, which occurred in Charlie Lake Fire Department. They were able to host that. So that worked out well for us, and I'd like to give them a shout out for doing that. A week after that practical, they had to write their final exam online. So now that that's done, all 3 of that particular module completed, and it goes towards the mini courses necessary to complete their Fire Officer 1. We also have 5 firefighters currently in a course going towards obtaining their Fire Officer 2. Another shout out I'd like to give out is to BC Ambulance Service. Last month their day crews came to the fire station on 4 separate occasions to hit all 4 of our crews, just to give them basic vehicle familiarization, going through all the areas of their ambulance. As you know, we go to a lot of calls involving ambulance and police, so it's good every once in a while to get an update on where they keep equipment, because there's a lot of times we're there together and we can help out for going back to the ambulance to pick up stuff. I'm trying to go as fast as I can. Our department also had some training from BC Fire Safe, and they deserve a shout out as well. Giving a lot of shout outs today. So they came to our station on 4 separate occasions as well to hit all the shifts, each receiving an alarm panel refresher course. So we respond to many different types of alarm calls at commercial buildings, and of course they're not all the same panels, so it's good to also to get refreshed on that for helping for resets and helping the public with that. I briefly touched earlier about the upcoming grass fire season. So as we get into spring season and the ground is starting to dry up, just a reminder that the city of Dawson Creek does have a burning bylaw. So the city and the fire department recommends obviously to haul away all yard cleanup. But if you are going to be doing some backyard burning, just a reminder that the city bylaw states that you must get a burn permit and you come into the fire hall for that. So there's regulations involved stating the size of the fire, what can be burned, for instance, only yard materials that grow on your property, grass, twigs, trees, that kind of stuff, no garbage. And Environment Canada must be called to ensure the venting index is proper as well. And there's a fee of $12 that is charged for that, but all that information is on the permit when you come in to get it. Our fire prevention officer was involved with the Home Alone project last month. He attended 2 separate sessions. It's for children 11 to 13. I don't know if you guys are familiar with what that is, but basically in talking with him, it's a program set up for these children, basically giving the general knowledge of being home alone, say for that brief period after school while your parents are working. So what the FPO, fire prevention officer's role is to go over fire safety, cooking safety, like hot stove, fire plans for getting out of the house, fire drills, that kind of stuff. So he's taken part in that, and that's something we're excited and thankful that we can be part of. At the end of March, myself and the deputy chief took a 2-day emergency operations essential course. Actually, Kevin was in it as well. So it was informative and gave us general knowledge of what happens in an EOC during an emergency. So obviously we are usually on the first responder side of the scene. So it was good to get into the EOC side of it and see what's done in there. We were all given different roles on day 2 during a mock emergency exercise. So it was a good experience to kind of learn that aspect of it as well. And last thing, I would like to bring up is a big thank you to some of our firefighters who attended the Special Olympics bowling tournament here in town back in March. I don't know if you guys are familiar with that. I'm assuming it wasn't a BC tournament, but there was a lot of people that attended, so I'm guessing maybe northern BC. Anyways, it was pretty good. 3 off-duty firefighters volunteered their time by providing medical coverage to all participants. So just from talking to them, they said it was a great experience and they're glad they attended. That's all I have.
Awesome. Thank you very much for your report. Anybody have any comments or questions? Councillor Parslow?
Marcel, you mentioned a number about business inspections. Did you in your report, earlier in your report? What was that number?
In my report that I submitted or in my report here?
What I heard.
Oh, business inspections.
Do you mean business license?
Business.
Okay, so I talked about our fire prevention branch and firefighters completed 160 fire inspections. Is that what you're talking about?
Ah, yes. That was of businesses, wasn't
Yes.
it? And for a total of 200 and something?
For a total of 206 for the first quarter.
Okay, so what is the goal? I mean, is it to have every business inspected once every year or every 2 years? What is
So
it?
there's regulations where they have to be.
Okay.
Depending on certain types of occupancy, for instance, hotels, stuff like that have to be done more than just a regular
Yeah.
pet store, maybe every 2 years. And so that's how we go on it. There's regulations for whether they have to be done annually or every 2 years or every 6 months. If you're sleeping there, then it has to be done more as well,
Right, so
more often.
we are meeting all the guidelines.
Yes.
Right? Okay.
So what we do is our fire prevention officer, he usually does all the big stuff. And then all the shifts every month
They
do
do some, yeah.
about 15
Yeah.
so it's quite a busy.
Okay, just switching topics a bit, that the expansion of the rural fire protection zone, is that in place now?
January
When-
1st.
Okay, when will road signs be put up to show that?
It's a good question.
And whose responsibility? I would assume it's the Peace River Regional District, but I don't know that. The reason I'm asking, Marcel, is that when I go to the gun range, I keep looking for the for the sign, right?
Yeah.
So
that's
no
a good-
one's complained or anything. It's just I keep looking for it. So I was wondering,
And
maybe it was delayed in implementation, or
Or was it maybe, forgot, I don't know. I don't know the exact answer, but I will definitely be in touch with them and let them know that.
yeah. Now related to that, and again, I just don't know process. Being in a fire protection zone impacts your insurance, house insurance, right? Who do the, so I'm a rural property owner, I now live in a fire protection zone. Does the insurance industry have an update to these expansions, or
So.
how do you handle that?
So the regional district has been handling that, so we've been getting a few calls from insurance companies saying, our client has told us that they are now in fire protection. We need proof of that, right? So we kind of either pass them off to the regional district or we give them a letter saying, yes, this is the new boundary. And then they take it from there, just that they have proof that they're in fire protection. What happens from there, as in how much does it save them? Does it save them? I have no idea.
Yeah.
But they do get a hold of us sometimes or the regional district asking for proof that they're in it.
Yeah, okay.
And so we give them that.
Perfect. Thank you very much. There isn't any other questions. Thank you, Marcel, for your presentation.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, perfect. So we'll move on to the staff sergeant.
Oh, here comes Kim. You did that to yourself, Kim.
You got me frustrated. I can't look at him out. These are a mess.
Is there another pack around?
Well, no, here, just open the lid. That's what I always do.
Sorry, guys, I'm just trying to write down, but I'm having technical difficulties with Terry.
You're not gonna get a whole white, so it's not gonna be as good as it normally is.
Thanks.
I'm gonna fix it.
Okay.
I hate those containers.
Well, they're good if they work.
All right, gentlemen.
Thanks very much.
You're very welcome.
Perfect, thank you. Now we'll move on to 16.1, the report from our staff sergeants. Damon is here and he has someone with him when you're ready.
Good morning, everybody. Thank you for allowing us to speak with you today. I'm providing you the policing report for the month of March. So I'll start off with reporting, resource reporting, and every time I report this to you, it's better and better. This is no exception. So we only are reporting right now 2 soft vacancies. A new recruit arrived in March. He's paired with a training officer. Another recruit here is due in May. I heard from our new corporal today. Actually, he's going to be here next week. So again, our resources are getting better and better, and we're in a great position coming for the summer here. So no issues or concerns with resourcing right now at all. Only good things to say. So. For crime trend reporting for the period, and sorry, I should have introduced you. I think you all know my operations NCO, Corporal Sean Peddles, so sorry. Between the period of January 1st to March 31st of 2022, we've received a total of 1,877 calls for service. That's down from last year by about 4%. Of those, 81% were within the city and 19% within the rural area. Comparative to last year for the same time period, that equates to a reduction of calls within the city of 3% and a reduction of calls for service within the rural area of 9%. Our specific crime trend groups, really a mismatch of increases and decreases. We're still pretty early in the year though, keeping in mind that we're only into March now, so it's the first 3 months and I'm reporting to you relatively small numbers because we're so early in the year. So increases of only a couple of calls may affect the increases or decreases significantly. So for theft of vehicle, so for this year, reporting an increase of 33% over last year for the same time period. Theft from vehicle, an increase of 39%. Break and enter a residence, an increase of 14%. Break and enter a business, an increase of 80%, largely in the rural area for those. Assault with a weapon, aggravated assault, an increase of 42%. Sex assaults, a decrease of 67% over last year. Drug possession, a decrease of 76%. Impaired driving, a decrease of 30%. Motor vehicle collisions, a decrease of 5%. Theft, which is mostly being driven this year by shoplifting, an increase of 109%. And again, it's mostly being driven by shoplifting here in town. Mental health, a small increase of 9%. And our COVID-related calls so far a decrease of 95% over last year. For annual policing priorities, we've pretty much wrapped up engaging with our stakeholders. I've spoken with everyone, including yourself. Corporal Peddle did that with you last week or 2 weeks ago now. So I'm in the process of finalizing our APPs. I'll have them probably done tomorrow, and on the next report to you, I'll be reporting on what our policing priorities are for this year. So keeping in mind as well that we work with our policing priorities, we work in the fiscal year. So our policing priorities will carry over until March 2023, and I understand that the city operates on the calendar year. So it may seem that we're starting late in the year, but it's actually early when we're operating in the fiscal year. So pending any questions, that's all I have for you today.
Thank you, Councillor Dober.
Thank you. Thanks, David. And I just had one quick question. Does, nothing to do with the report, but does RCMP still use like auxiliary officers? Like I know they used to have where there would be like a bit of volunteer base that would help out like where you guys need. Like is that even still a thing?
We did have an auxiliary here until about 2 years ago. And the auxiliary program has changed so much, and it's constantly changing over the last 2 or 3 years. For a period of time, and mostly through COVID, we didn't really have an auxiliary program because it was being completely revamped from the bottom up. We do have an auxiliary program now, but the duties of the auxiliary officers really changed from what it used to be. Whereas usually, in the past, they used to ride with us in vehicles and we'd pair them with an officer, they'd go on patrol. They don't do that anymore.
Oh, okay.
They're strictly like school liaisons, or they'll work maybe a volunteer booth for us at like policing week and that kind of stuff. Not really police-related duties anymore. And unfortunately, it's unfortunate that it changed that way, and I miss how it used to be, but that's just not the way it's going to be anymore. So.
Yeah, so not much benefit to you, like.
Not operationally with calls for service. So.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Dober. Councillor Parslow?
I don't know if I read this somewhere or I dreamt it, to be honest. But are you seeking... Well, I have a lot of dreams. It's a vivid dream life about strange things, but maybe it's my age. But are you seeking a police officer trained in mental health?
We've been tossed around ideas about how to deal with mental health calls because they occupy quite a bit of our policing resources.
Yeah,
not
absolutely.
just mental health calls by themselves, but other calls for service that may be attributed to or related to mental health. So a lot of our shoplifting calls and cause disturbance calls down south or in downtown may be indirectly or directly related to mental health. So
Yeah.
I think that when we actually take a fine look at our calls for service, we'll find that a large majority of them are mental health related. So we're tossing around ideas about how we're going to deal with that. And I think that over the long term, or over the short term, over the next 3 years, 5 years, that having at least one officer or two officers dedicated to mental health calls and working with our mental health nurses and dealing with the mental health community would actually positively contribute to a further reduction in police calls for service and a safer community.
So I didn't dream it.
That talk initially, maybe you had I think you had the resourcing report this morning. So that was part of the interview that I had when I participated. We talked about my resourcing anticipations
Yeah.
over the next few years, and that came up.
Well, it certainly makes sense, and as long as there's good training for whoever assumes that role. Because,
Yeah, I think down south they call it a CAR 69 program, and I mean I don't know if that would work here or not. Fort St. John has something working right now, but again, it's not a CAR 69 program, but it's something fashioned to that effect. So I think it's worth looking into over the
Yeah.
next few years,
Yeah.
because when we're looking at policing now versus where we want it to be in 5 years from now, I think that focusing on mental health calls for service and priorities within the community is going to have the greatest effect on policing in our area.
So quality assurance. How do we know that these statistics are because the community's been less criminal or less is behaving better, or the police have just had more time in the office? I'm throwing you a zinger just because you're so comfortable there.
No, I mean we've been lucky because since I've been here in 2018, I think we've almost steadily enjoyed a decrease in calls for service year over year, right? So other than last year, which was COVID driven or largely COVID driven, but and that was despite being severely under-resourced. So at this time in July or in 2018 or in 2019, I was reporting to you at the time. I think we had 8 or staffing holes or vacancies, right? And since that time, despite having those vacancies, we've seen our calls go down for service and our resources climb. So I'd like to think that our officers are out there making a difference and dealing with drugs in the community. Again, drugs is something I'm reporting to you almost monthly, going down every month. 79% reduction even from this year compared to last year. So a lot of that is proactive work I think that the officers are doing on the road. And as our resources continue to climb and our recruits are trained and they're separated from their training officers, I think you're going to see more proactive work. I know I have a couple of pictures that the officer sent me just yesterday of them doing foot patrols downtown in the downtown community with the stores.
Yeah.
That we'll be doing a media release on. So,
No, I think that's a good practice as well. So one of the opportunities that brings the RCMP to the forefront and with appreciation is the grad festivities. So your staff, some of your people will be supporting the grad as they usually do?
As we do every year.
Yeah.
And I think that's an important part of policing because we're talking about you know, again, what is the role or definition of a police officer? Is it someone that goes out and writes traffic tickets, or is it someone that goes to calls for service? Or is it someone that's active in the community in our schools and doing downtown foot patrols and bike patrols and being a prominent member of the community and a positive role model? You know, and I think as a city and as a local government, we have to define what we want the definition of a police officer to be, and build our police force here, you know, based on that description and belief.
Absolutely.
Awesome. Thank you very much. If anyone has any other questions. Thank you very much for your report.
It wasn't hard questions at all today.
Yeah.
No worries.
I'll have another dream, yeah.
Take care.
Thank you. All right. Yeah. Okay, perfect. Because, perfect. Can you take over, Shay? I had to sneak out. The airport manager.
Where are we at?
We just have Rowan. These three. And we have to make this motion. Is it Paul that has to come in?
Yeah, through you, Madam Chair.
Yes.
There will be a motion required to appoint a chair.
Okay.
If you're unable to carry on with the meeting.
Okay, can I get a motion then? Unfortunately, I do have to leave.
Did the mayor not reach out to somebody? No, nobody got a call? Then yourselves, you can, I would suggest whoever's next in line.
Yeah, through you, Madam Chair. It's up to council to appoint
Yeah.
anyone that's in attendance as the chair.
Okay.
Who would like to take over? Who would like to appoint someone to take over?
Just, you guys can just move, I move.
Okay.
Who we do?
I'll do it, but don't need a motion.
Move that Councillor Wilbur serve as chairperson for the remainder of our meeting.
Okay. And the seconder is seconded by Councillor Dober. Perfect. All right. Thank you. All right. I'll sneak away.
Good job, Amy.
Good job.
Should do it more often.
Who do we, Rowan, is that who we have next?
I think you have the airport manager and then this one.
And then we have to go back into close?
Yes, and there's the motion.
Yeah, and then we're gonna, okay. Guess we have to wait for Blair. Amy's crawling around under the desk over here, don't.
Yeah, there's at the end, that motion there to add these items to go into closed. Once you're done all the committee of the whole.
Okay. Okay, are we waiting for Blair? No. No? Okay, we're gonna continue on without Blair. All right, so we have our airport manager here, Rowan is here, so the floor is yours.
Okay. All right. Good afternoon, everybody. So I'll just touch on a couple of the high points from my latest Committee of the Whole report. So I did include a little section here about the performance for WestJet Link. Just a quick summary of which flights were on time, which may have been delayed, or the couple of canceled flights that we had for the first quarter of 2020. So the planned cancellations, I know that sounds a little odd, but ultimately that's WestJet's decision. So the actual details of those planned cancellations, they're not typically shared with us. They give us a variety of reasons. You know, there could be staffing shortages in Calgary, or issues with baggage handling out of Calgary. They just kind of give us a heads up when they are planned cancellations, or it could also be low ridership as well. So they might elect to cancel a couple of those flights and shift them to others. But the thing with those flights is that they were canceled 2 or 3 weeks in advance, so that did give everybody, you know, ample time to seek other arrangements, either by, you know, selecting another flight that came out of Dawson Creek, or making their way to Fort St. John or Grand Prairie. So they were accommodated in some way when it's WestJet's decision to cancel the flight. The other big thing is that the Sealand Flight School, they did come back as of March. So I am expecting that our flight movements month to month will go up now that they're back. They typically, when they were at their peak last year, they made up half of our movements for each month. So, starting in March, we're really looking forward to increased aircraft movements. So we'll see that reflected in the stats for this year. The other thing too I want to just highlight is the call-outs that we had for the last 3 months. So we did have a few de-icing sessions with Pacific Coastal and WestJet. The timings have been really great thus far. Normally it might take 10 or 20 minutes to de-ice, which is fairly standard for our industry. I would say it's excellent for our airport, an airport of our size, especially since this is really the first year that we've gotten into the servicing of aircraft like this. So the crew's done a really good job with the timings. We've de-iced everything properly and safely, and we should be very proud of the crew at the airport for that. And then the other thing I wanted to highlight, some people might not be aware of this, but generally you must be vaccinated to fly an aircraft right now, but Dawson Creek is actually identified as a gateway airport. So people with either, a medical inability to be vaccinated, or if they have a sincerely held religious belief. Transport Canada has a couple of forms, either for your doctor or your clergy member to fill out for you, that kind of identify you as being exempt from these. So if anybody is looking for an exemption for travel, especially if it's necessary, you can travel in and out of Dawson Creek as long as you fill out the proper paperwork and just talk to WestJet about it. So there is still a way for people who are unable to be vaccinated to travel. It's just you have to contact WestJet before you book your ticket, just so you can have everything squared away and you're not denied boarding on the day of your flight. So I just wanted to get that out there. And with that, the WestJet service, they're actually expanding to 7 days a week as of July 1st. So as of right now, they've committed from July 1st to September 6th for the 7 day a week. That was the original plan when they first announced that they were coming to Dawson Creek. They kind of launched with a reduced schedule just because of COVID and there was a lot of uncertainty with the industry, but things seem to be bouncing back. I don't want to jinx it, but we're very happy that they're finally moving to 7 days a week, which is great. We're going to see passenger numbers go up with that as well. So if that goes well for them, they'll probably continue the 7 day a week, but if it doesn't go as well as they hope, they might just go back down to either, 3 a week or 4 a week like they've been doing the last couple of months. So, yeah, that's kind of my report in a nutshell, if anybody has any questions.
Thank you, Ron. Does anyone have any questions? Councillor Parslow.
So what's the average ridership on these WestJet flights for
Okay.
the month of March?
For the month of March, I'd have to look at the stats again, but generally speaking for WestJet, I think they said if they have at least 20 people, in total, either people coming off from Calgary or boarding in Dawson Creek, that's enough for them to make it like a worthwhile operation, and they'll stay in Dawson Creek. I'd have to check the stats for March again, just to find the official numbers, but I think we're seeing an average of 25 up to like 28, an average for the month, like per flight.
Yeah. Okay.
So we can get out of here if we have documents from the doctor saying that we can't get a vaccination. How about getting back on in Calgary? Is it the same thing?
Yeah, as long as you keep your paperwork with you, and just touch base with the airline just to double check that you have all of the paperwork you need. Some airlines, Transport Canada has kind of basic forms to fill out, but the airlines might have their own form where they want a little more information about the reason why you can't be vaccinated, either medical or sincerely held religious belief. So I would just double check with WestJet, but we have accommodated one person that couldn't be vaccinated so far. And it does involve getting a COVID test, but this is at no cost to the person flying out. It's Transport Canada has provided us a couple of rapid tests, so we'd use that stock, so it wouldn't come at any cost to somebody who actually is enabled to be vaccinated. So again, they just need to coordinate that with the airline, but they have accommodated people who actually need to get to Calgary. It's just they need to keep that paperwork for their return trip, or they have to find alternate arrangements to get back to Dawson Creek. But yeah.
All right. Seeing no other questions, thank you, Rowan, for coming in and the information. We appreciate it. And waiting for us. It's been a long day. Okay. So we'll move along to 16.7. So that's a report from our Director of Infrastructure. We're going to sanitize first.
You're welcome.
Okay.
She is doing a fantastic job.
So is this the health department still requires?
She's,
That's what Blair just said.
I believe so, yes.
yep.
If you leave me one, I can.
She's going to have arms of steel dealing with that
Do my
Lysol
own hair yet after.
you gotta do that?
container. The container keeps.
Oh, it's funny, you have to do that.
Everything's.
There's a lot of.
She just said that to me, so I can't even watch her.
All right. Okay, welcome, Devin.
Afternoon. Thanks for having me. Okay, so I'm not going to go over my report in detail. You have it. Wanted to touch on a couple things, though. The truck waste facility, I provided the information and the additional information just because there was a request for follow-up on how it was doing. So as you can see in the report, it looks like the rates are set well for full cost recovery on that facility. At our current volumes, if we see an increase in volumes, that's positive for the city. The water sales kiosk replacement project, I touched on this last COW meeting. This is going ahead May 2nd. We're starting to do construction. We're going to see over the next, I don't know, four weeks or so, we're going to start seeing construction first starting at the water sales location in Alaska, and then moving to the 116th Ave location, then to the reclaim facility, and then finally to the truck waste facility. It's tricky. It's logistically challenging. Dealing with our residents and all the account holders, there's going to be a transition period. So right now we're working on, actually our staff are currently undergoing training right now on the financial system. And then as we go through, it's all going to be about communication. So you're going to see some social media and website posts, as well as some posts up on the water sales sites. And our front desk staff will also be trained in it as well. And all of the information that's going through, making sure that our project team is well versed in it, because it's tricky. And with a lot of our residents relying on this water, we need to make sure that we don't skip a step and we've got everything in place. Public Works update for you. Spring activities, we're rolling into spring, so our crews are out there fixing potholes. You might have seen the street sweeper out here on the weekend. As soon as the snow melted, we got back out there cleaning the roads. And we started sidewalk washing this morning, starting with the week, going up 8th Street, down Alaska. Boulevard cleaning, once it gets a little drier, will be next on our list, and we do that in conjunction with parks, working with parks, to make sure we're not sweeping a street and then putting gravel on the street. Cemeteries Cleanup. We usually do a cemeteries cleanup in time for Mother's Day. Mother's Day is kind of our deadline to make sure, and our cemeteries crew is on task for that. We're also looking at potentially doing a bit more of a cleanup this year, later in the year. So something that just to be aware of after the Mother's Day cleanup and everything happens, maybe closer to the fall, we'll be looking at doing a larger cleanup of different sentimental items that have been left over the years, either blown around by the wind or forgotten about. It makes it really difficult for our crews to be cleaning the site, and it really adds to their. It just makes it really inefficient to have to be moving things around. So looking at cleaning up those things that are no longer being paid attention to, and making sure we get the cemeteries looking tip-top shape. And the last thing on my list is two actually things. One is the water treatment plant. The river pumps were shut down this morning due to high turbidity in the river. We saw our limit is about 500 NTU for turbidity, and it hit 891 this morning, so they were shut down this morning. We expect usually every year they're shut down for about 20 to 25 days. So our water treatment plant crew will be working to try to maintain water supply to those residents. That is a transmission main on that raw line, not a distribution main. But there's things that we can do to try to help those residents out. We turn the pumps on, we fill the pipe, and try to give them some water. They may not see the same pressure, but we'll try to give them as much as we can while we have those pumps off at the river. And the last thing I was going to mention is at the end of my report in the news and notes, something noteworthy, is Dawn Carpenter, our Public Works Yards Clerk. This is some good news story. She got the Public Works Association of BC 2021 Women's Ambassador Award, which is very awesome. So that's recognized by the PWBC. There's an award coming for her, as well as I believe, I'm hoping that there will be a delegation put in by the Public Works Association to present to council. She'll come in and get her award. So we're all very proud of her. She's been a role model for women in public works, and she's been fantastic for our team at Public Works. So if barring any other questions, that's my report.
Anyone have any questions for Devin? Nope. Get off the hook, Devin, just like that. Thank you very much for coming in.
Thanks, Deb. Thank you. I gotta clean now. She left me in.
Brenda doesn't have to move, so you're safe.
Oh, you're good? Okay, that's good. I'm just gonna put this back down because it's a mess. Thank you.
Thanks, Devin. All right, we'll move along to 16.8, so the report from our corporate officer.
Good afternoon. It's been a long day, so I just have one item that I want to highlight for today. Currently, our legislated advertising requirements are to publish a notice once each week for 2 weeks. There's been a legislation change that allows the city to set our own notification requirements by adopting a public notice bylaw. So before presenting this bylaw to council for consideration, we're conducting a survey for the residents in order to find out what is their preferred method to receive notices from the city. So this survey will open from May 2nd to the 13th. And in order to gain more responses, anyone that completes the survey can enter into a contest for city services credit for $100. And this could be for recreation program or utilities of their choice. Suggested options for the advertising is the city website could be used, or an email subscription service, Facebook, posting the notice at the rec center, and also the newspaper can still be used, either printed or online version. So just to keep an eye out for that survey coming out on May 2nd. That's all I have unless there's questions.
Anybody have any questions? Nope. Well, thank you, Brenda. I look forward to the results of that survey. Okay, so now do we need to move back into closed? So we need a motion to move in camera for 8.4 section 91D and 8.5 section 91J. Is that correct? Councillor Earl? Councillor Parcel? Moved his arm, that counts. All in favor? We're good.